everyone, welcome back. Today I'm here with my September wrap-up, Friday reads, and my October TBR. September was a very good reading month for me. I have been in and out of slumps for most of the year, but in September I felt like I was back in the game. During the month I finished 4 books with a total of 1,675 pages. I finished 1 modern sci-fi book, 1 vintage sci-fi book, 1 paranormal romance, and 1 epic fantasy. My first completed book for the month was Record of a Spaceborn Few by Becky Chambers, which I have definitely talked about quite a bit in several of my recent videos, but I loved this book. This is the 3rd book in her Wayfarer series, and it was a lovely return to this world that she has created. So this book jumps between several different points of view. It has quite a variety of characters, and the stories of these individual characters, the Spaceborn Few, I would say that they more complement each other than really connect and interweave, as opposed to like a Robin Hobb book where you know that those threads are really going to get tangled up as the book proceeds. They do overlap and there are connections between them, but I thought it was really interesting how it was more complementary, like I said, as opposed to connected. And I also really appreciated the variety of moments that we saw in these characters' lives. They dealt with very big and complex issues like death and love and family and belonging. They also had very awkwardly relatable human moments like teenagers making stupid choices that blow up in their face, or naive characters just walking into something they weren't prepared for. They also have wonderful slice of life moments that are just simple and lovely on their own, and it just all came together in a really great way. One final thing I want to say about this that I really appreciated was the variety of characters. So they had teenagers and they had elderly characters, there were humans and there were aliens, and there was non-traditional families and also queer relationships. It really just had a wide variety and it felt like it did justice to every one of them, and I so appreciated that. Probably no surprise here, but I gave this one 5 stars. The next book I finished was Solaris by Stanisław Lem. This book was originally written in Polish and then translated into French, and then it was that French translation that was translated into English, and here we are. So I think that probably takes away a little bit of the personality from the writing, but I still thought this was a very enjoyable read. This was the September pick for the S'more Sci-Fi Book Club, which was actually my pick, and I'm really glad I picked it. I was nervous, but I think it came through. I'm not going to talk about it too much since I do talk about it quite a bit on the podcast, but I will say that it was a very interesting look at humans struggling to communicate and engage and understand alien life on an alien world when they don't understand themselves and how they interact and live on their world. And it really dug into that question a lot and the psychology around that, of how could we presume to be able to understand an alien when we don't understand each other. I thought it was really interesting. It was kind of spooky at times, and given that this is a vintage science fiction book, I was really pleased to see that one of the main characters is a woman, and she's actually portrayed as being like an intelligent, contributing member of the team. That was cool. You don't see that quite as often in the vintage books. I ended up giving this one 4 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read was on Kindle, and that is Ghost Planet by Sharon Lynn Fisher. This was actually a reread for me. I read it originally about 5 years ago, and I was reminded of it when I started to read Solaris. A lot in the plot, setting, and characters of Solaris kept reminding me of Ghost Planet, so I wanted to reread it just to see if it really seemed to be inspired by Solaris. And while I haven't dug up anything from the author specifically saying, yes, this was inspired by Solaris, I feel safe in saying it was inspired by Solaris. So much about it, the setting, the characters, it just really, you can see how it mimics Solaris, how it pulls from that. And then at the beginning of the book, we see one of the main characters, we're in his apartment, he has a coffee table, there's some books on the table. One of the books is Solaris. Nothing about these books is actually pertinent to the story, but Solaris is on the table, so yeah. So that was really fun. I enjoyed rereading it, and I found a greater appreciation for the story and the setting because I had just read / was reading Solaris. So that just made it a really fun thing to read side by side, and I definitely suggest that if you decide to pick up one or the other, try reading both. The one thing that I will say is that I kind of wish it wasn't a romance. Now don't get me wrong, because I love a good romance, steamy scenes for the win. The problem I had is that this had such a really great, action-packed, high-intensity storyline, and the main character, or one of the characters in the main relationship, oh, he just did not understand. Like, he had no situational awareness of what was appropriate and kept trying to initiate things in a time and place where it was just a terrible idea and rude to everyone around you. And I was just having such like feelings and stress, and I'm just like clawing at my throat. Like, no, just calm down, Murphy. It's gonna be okay. There will be time later. And if not, you know what? Just don't. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just getting into a pruder phase of life, but I was just so bothered by some of that. They had scenes where it definitely made sense. This was a good time and a good place. And even, you know, in spontaneous moments, yeah, totally chill. But some of them just really, oh gosh, okay, I'm not gonna go on because I will go on, but yeah, that's my only complaint. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Like I said, it was really fun to read it and see how it pulled from Solaris. I do still really like the relationship between the two main characters. I wish that was just taken down a little notch on the steamy scenes. And the final book that I finished in September was Dragon Haven by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in her Rainwild Chronicles series. There's 4 books total in this series. I've been doing a buddy read on this series with Frankie from Frankie Reads, and it's been really fun. We had a little break at the end of summer where we were both just not quite in that epic fantasy mindset, but autumn is upon us and we are there. So we dove back into this world. I'm so glad we did. I felt like the first book had a lot of setup in it, and the second book picked up a little bit of that in the beginning, and then it just dove into the action and the relationships and the characters, and it was so good. I gave this one 5 stars. I am not sorry about it. Like everything about Robin Hobb books, great, you guys, yeah, you know my feelings, but she really hit on those characters and those relationships in this book, and I love that so much. So I was just screaming from all of the feelings at various points in time. Frankie and I had such good conversations about it, and yeah, I'm really glad to be back into the world. Moving on to what I'm currently reading. So this is a book that I started in September. I did not finish it, so I will finish it up probably this first week of October. In fact, I might be done by the time you're seeing this video because time travel and YouTube filming and stuff. But the book is There Before the Chaos by KB Wagers. This is an advanced reader copy that I was lucky enough to get. Thank you so much. But yeah, so good, you guys. Okay, so this is the first book in a new trilogy called the Farian Wars, but it takes place just after the Andranin War trilogy, which is like a complete 5-star every book kind of series for me. Yes, there's so much about this that I would love to talk about, but I can't because it will spoil the previous trilogy. Let me just say that I love this world so much, so if you are not already on the KB Wagers train, let me get you there. So this is a sci-fi series. It's set like thousands of years in the future where humans have long since left Earth and colonized various planets. Andrana is the planet that we are mostly focused on, and it was originally colonized by folks in current times India. So it has a lot of Indian culture, and it's like a planet of people of color, which is fantastic. There are some white people out there in space that come by from time to time, but the main cast are people of color. There's also a lot of queer characters. So fantastic. And I do just want to say that one thing I really appreciate both in this book and the previous trilogy is how our main character, Hale Bristol, handles her feelings while still being this fierce character. She's a gun runner and also an empress. It's pretty hardcore, but when she goes through things, she has to deal with the fallout emotionally and mentally, And you see that, and I think that's really important because you just cannot go through a traumatic event and not have to process those feelings. So in the first book, we see her reacting to things, we see her being emotional, but it never takes away from her fierceness. In fact, it always makes her character feel stronger for the fact that she is processing that and dealing with that and doing what she needs to do to move forward. She went through a lot in that previous series, and in this one, we are definitely seeing the fallout from that. It's handling things like PTSD, and I think it's really doing justice to mental health and the struggles therein. So obviously I'm really excited to continue with this one, and I'm looking forward to reporting back once I've finished it. Besides finishing There Before the Chaos, I have 6 books on my TBR, which may be a little excessive, but a couple of them are audiobooks, and I am going to go on a trip in just a few days. In fact, while you're watching this, I am potentially on an airplane. So, hi from the sky. Yeah, so I anticipate that I will be having a lot of time at the airport, on the plane, etc. to listen to audiobooks and read, and hopefully that will give me that little extra edge that I need to knock all of these out. The first book on my list is Malice by John Gwynne, which is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I have not read this series, and it just so happens that Frankie from Frankie Reads is hosting a read-along for the entire series this month. This is the only book I plan on reading from the series, at least in this month, but I'm really excited to have this reason to finally pick it up off my shelf because I've had it for at least 2 years now, but it sounds like it's a really good epic fantasy. It is quite a large book, so this will take a chunk of time, but just based on everything I've heard about it and all the excitement from other booktubers, I'm in. If you'd like to join in on the read-along, I will put the information down in the description box for the Goodreads page and such, so you can check it out. Next I have the S'more sci-fi pick for October, which I don't actually have my copy of yet. I ordered it from Book Depository and it shipped about a week ago, so it should be showing up any minute now, and I'm really excited because I got a cute edition, but the book itself is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This was a community pick that we put out for the Goodreads group. We wanted to go for something that was obviously vintage sci-fi, but also spooky, and I think that this is a great choice, so thank you everyone who voted on that. Yeah, I've never read this book. I've never read anything by Robert Louis Stevenson that I know of, so I'm really excited to get into it. Next I plan to read City of Dragons by Robin Hobb. This is the 3rd book in the Ravenwealth Chronicles series, so Frankie and I will be buddy reading this one later this month. Very excited to continue with that. Next, I have another book which I've ordered but it's not yet arrived, and that is A Night in the Lonesome October by Roger Zelazny. I have never read this book and I honestly don't know much about it, but this is one that Jess likes to read every October, so I thought it would be fun to read it together. I kind of enjoyed the idea of going into it blind, and I'm excited to see what it is about this book that she loves so much. Then finally, I have my 2 audiobooks. The first is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman by Theodora Goss, and this is a sequel to The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. I really enjoyed that first book because it had this lovely, quirky mixture of several classic books. Sherlock Holmes was in there, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein, I think a few others, and that just made for a very fun read. I'm not really sure what's going on in this second book. I'm just assuming that the cast of the first book are off for European travel. So I'm in for it. I think it's going to be fun and it seems appropriate for October. And finally, I have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And not only do I have this one on audiobook, but it's the full cast version, which I'm really excited about. A friend of mine suggested I pick this one up, and I think it's going to be a really great seasonal read or listen, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, that is enough talking for one video. This has been my wrap up, my Friday reads, and my TBR. So many things. Let me know down in the comments what you guys have been reading, what you're planning to read going into this month. Do you have any spooky reads picked out? Do you like to read spooky books? I don't know. Let's discuss. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!